I'm vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Off the Record with
Judah
and Kirk.
Today we're going to be digging into one of the greatest Batman stories of all time, as well as personally the beginning of one of my top 5 Batman runs of all time. And that is, we're digging into the Court of Owls saga from Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, which comes from the 2011 New 52 Batman relaunch. I think it's Batman Volume 2, which is interesting because we just had the launch of Batman Volume 4 in September, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Really quickly explain the difference between volume
Volume, so there's two definitions of volume. There's volume in the terms of trades. So trades are numbered Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. Usually that numbering is purely based off of an author's run on that book. And then there's volumes in the sense of series. So that is the number of times a series has relaunched from issue number 1. So in this case, we're at the 4th volume of Batman because it's the 4th Batman number 1 we've ever had. If you're wondering, you're like, well, hasn't Batman been rebooted? Yes. Batman has been rebooted as of Crisis on Infinite Earths, something we talked about. But he was not renumbered at that time. If you notice the issues of Batman Year 1, they're like 427, 426, or whatever.
Yes.
So,
and that will be the next video right after this.
Which is great.
Coming out next week, which will be gone next week. So don't be expecting too many responses to comments if you graciously give them to us.
Yeah.
But that video will be scheduled, hopefully, for next week. So be looking forward to that. But I was noticing that too. And I was going to ask it in that video, but it starts. I was like, okay, it's year 1. I noticed the date.
Yeah.
But I noticed the numbers. I guess they're just not renumbering it. But I wanted to
Batman
be sure.
Doesn't get renumbered. Green Lantern doesn't get renumbered.
So the
until
volume
90.
2 in
Volume
this case
2.
is based on Crisis or pre-Crisis.
This is based on pre-Crisis. So
Okay.
Batman, the first volume starts in the 40s. It ends in 2010. Or early 2011, one of the two. And this is the second volume.
Yeah.
So Batman kept the same numbering all the way throughout. Superman got renumbered in 86, but then returned to original numbering. Brief tangent.
As if we haven't been on one this entire time.
As if we haven't been on one this entire time. Renumbering books to their original volume makes me mad. Because if you're going to commit to having a new volume and then 13 issues in, it switches to number 562, that is confusing to me as a reader. And I understand, I love legacy numbers. I love the fact that
you should just do, if you're going to be like that, you should just do both. You should have, like with The Amazing Spider-Man, for example, we have 1000 is coming out soon.
The Amazing Spider-Man,
they give you both
the
numbers.
Superman has, the current Joshua Williamson series has had legacy numbers the entire time, which I really enjoy because it shows us,
it's so helpful for context.
Issue 900 of Superman Ever is coming up, and that's great to know in the background, but I'm glad that my Superman issue is labeled 34 and not 884. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it feels more accessible with the numbers lower, which is it's a marketing term, and I understand that it's not always true. I understand that year 1 was a great Batman jumping on point, which we'll get into more when we talk about that book next week. Yeah. Next week.
We'll talk about it this week.
We will.
You'll hear us talk about it next week.
Yes.
Time travel.
But yeah, time travel is weird. But I still am not a big fan of renumberings. Anyway, before we dig into talking about the Court of Owls,
we have that's words. We have a question to pose.
Yeah.
And the last video that released, I believe the last video that released was our TNG season 3 video. And we got a couple of comments on that one. Thank y'all for commenting. And one thing that stuck out to me is just kind of the way that we made our content is very much, we just kind of talk about our thoughts on it, which is not going to change. But one thing that we can do to maybe direct our thoughts a little bit more is posing a question. And I think we've done this 1 or 2 times in the past as well. But going forward, we'll try to have a question for any content that we cover. So for example, when we cover in 2 weeks, season 4 of TNG, we're going to pose the question, what makes Star Trek Star Trek? And we will be reviewing we'll still review it honestly as to what we thought, but we will be covering it with reference to that question and how does it kind of stack up against that question.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to do the same thing here and in the next video.
Yes.
Which, it's the 2 weeks of Batman right here. Summer of Batman.
Summer of Batman.
You thought it was Summer of Supergirl? No.
It's Summer
of Batman here.
And
And so Judah's going to explain what is our question for today.
So one of the things that's interesting about Batman is what surrounds him is really what defines him. It's his villains, it's his side characters, and it very particularly is his city. So the question is, the real core of the question is, I had to phrase this in many different ways, but I came up with a better phrasing that sounds more catchy. What happens when Batman can't trust the city he knows? Mm-hmm. And that really is a question that's at the core of this narrative. And I think that's something that I don't think really gets answered in this book, but I think it's there. I think it's what it poses.
Yes.
And
you can answer the question by reading the book. The book itself does not answer the question. Which
this is correct.
I love that. I love it when that happens.
They pose it to you.
Yes. Don't preach it to me. Pose it to me.
Yes.
It's a big difference, and it makes all the difference.
Yeah. And before we get too far into this video, we're about 6.5 minutes in. So at least our average viewer views this long. So if you haven't already and you watch our videos, I know there's like 168 of you that have not subscribed yet. Can you please hit the subscribe button? We would greatly appreciate that. If you like what we're talking about here, hit the like button. If you don't like what we're talking about here, hit the dislike button.
We'll know not to do this in the future.
Yeah, we'll know not to do this in the future. And if you have any Batman reading recommendations, thoughts on Scott Snyder's Court of Owls, or anything generally in the Batman kind of sphere, leave those thoughts in the comments down below.
Mm-hmm. And try to answer the question that we have posed yourself in the comments as well. We would love to hear different perspectives on it, even if the conclusion might be the same. Just different thought processes and all that would be really interesting. I love talking about comics, and so seeing some conversations in the comments would be really awesome. And I'd love to engage in those as well.
Yes.
So we had 3 minor keys in these 11 issues.
Yeah, we did.
That's kind of a lot. It's packed full of minor keys.
Yeah.
Though Judah has some disagreements with it. I'm rolling with that. Yeah. He doesn't think it's necessarily considered the first appearance in Earth Zero because it's not Earth Zero, but then it is Earth Zero because it's retconned and whatever. But in League of Comics, in League of Comics, we have 3 minor keys.
I'm
Judah,
soapbox real fast. Okay, soapboxing real fast. I did some research after you asked me this question before.
Oh,
technically speaking,
I'm right.
This is Earth Zero, but there's a big but, which is what I was pressing on. Mm-hmm. Earth 52 is the Earth that continues from this continuity. Earth Zero separates from Earth 52. It comes into existence different from Earth Zero at the point of DC Rebirth. Mm-hmm. And that's when this becomes Earth Zero officially.
So this is Earth Zero doesn't exist. It's just Earth 52.
Yes.
Then a certain amount of time passes and it splits.
Yes.
And then you have an Earth 52 and you have an Earth Zero.
And they have the same
backgrounds up until that splitting off point is the case. Okay, and that's what I was pressing on a little bit more is, yes, there's a Earth 52 and an Earth Zero, but even if this takes place in what is technically considered Earth 52, it is still the story of Earth Zero.
Yes. At the time it's being made and until about 2016, where they diverge.
Yeah. And retcons can change anything and all of that. But technically speaking, there are 3 minor keys here. So if you're interested in collecting keys, this could be a fun one for you to dig into. And beyond it just being a really great one to dig into. We'll get into that. One of the
best Batman stories, if not the best Batman story. So, digging into the narrative, this has a major role of resetting all of Batman's continuity and telling a fresh first story that is memorable. Yeah. I think it does that. And I think that this book definitely does that. Mm-hmm. I really love how we're thrown right in there. We're not given a Batman origin type thing. Like in the monologue, we pick it up.
It's not like year 1 where this is like, okay, he is just starting out. Yeah. This is he's been at it for a while, but we're not necessarily seeing that. We're jumping into a middle point of his journey and continuing on from there.
Yes.
But we don't need to know any of the context from anything before because if it was needed, it's told.
Yes, this is very true. I really love the opening scene in issue 1 where we're in the asylum. That's why there's so many minor keys in here about the first appearance of everybody
Yes.
and their cousin. But I really love that scene. I love the way Capullo draws the Batman universe. Like, Greg Capullo has an interesting art style. I think it works for 3 characters, and it doesn't work for anyone else. I think it works for Batman, I think it works for Spawn, and I think it works for Wolverine. And I don't think his art really gels with other, like, heroic imagery. But it really gels with this gothic kind of thriller vibe that this book gives off. Like, there's action, there's hijinks, there's adventure, there's comedy, but it really, at a point, is a mystery and it's a thriller. And his art gets you in that kind of state of mind, and it's really fantastic.
Yeah. And I've pulled up a piece of art from page 19 in the app,
which we'll throw up on screen right now.
Which I will. And it's really good. It's basically just him as Batman. What would you call it? It's
grappling through the streets of Gotham.
Grappling through, swinging. You could say swinging. That's more of a Spider-Man thing, but
it's
the same motion.
Gliding.
And it's really good. And kind of in the 3 panels that are at the bottom of this as well, you do get kind of that mystery side of it where Batman is, I'll just put the entire page up on screen. Yes. Batman is in the shadows, and all you see is kind of a vague outline and his eyes, which sets up the mystery. But then kind of the flying through the streets thing is the thriller aspect of it. And just in that single piece of artwork,
it kind of encapsulates
at the beginning of the story,
the tone of this narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really great. I love the start of this. This is a nostalgia thing for me. When I'm going to tell a little story before we dig back into the story. Sorry that there's so many tangents and side things in this thing, but because we're posing a question, in order to answer the question, I'm going to have to dig into why I'm answering the question the way I'm answering the question. Because we're going to answer at the end of the video as well as give ratings.
Well, we're going to pose the question and talk about it throughout the video too.
Yes.
But we'll give a final answer at the end of the video.
But this is my first Batman comic ever. When I was a 8-year-old, which you could debate having an 8-year-old read this, I went to the library, and my older brother used to have to read comic books and deem them readable for his younger siblings, which is really funny if you know this book. And he deemed this the only Batman book that I could read as an 8-year-old, which tells you about the kinds of Batman books that were at our library. Lots of dark, macabre, very sexual, hypersexual, and violent Batman stories. This didn't fit in that category, so I got to read it. And this is really where I fell in love with Batman and where I get a lot of what I love about this character. The kind of tone that this strikes, the kind of relationships he has with Gordon and Bullock and all the Robins and Batgirl and all that stuff. And Alfred, who, by the way, I'm so happy to be reading a Batman story with Alfred in it.
And in a number of places,
featured like heavily and well,
like a mini side story at the end of some of the issues.
Yes, and also Snyder has a great voice for Alfred, and I just hear that the voice, whoever the voice actor from the 2003 Batman series for Alfred was, I hear his voice when I read this Alfred, and it just fits and gels, and this is just. It's nostalgic for me. I've read this story so many times. We're going to talk about another book in the future when we cover some Marvel events that I also have read several thousand times. But this is nostalgic for me, and it is my Batman. Like, this is my Batman. I just wanted to say that off.
Is this what it feels like when we're talking about Star Trek?
This is exactly what it feels like when we're talking about Star Trek. And probably what it felt like when we talked about Man of Steel, too. Because, like, Byrne is my Superman. Really Byrne and Loeb. But then my Batman is really, like, Dini and Snyder's Batman.
Yeah. Well, this is certainly a worthy Batman to put on that list right there. Yeah, I mean, this is... I don't have any backstory to this. This is my first viewing of this, and I think it's pretty good. Again, we'll give actual ratings at the end.
Yes.
But for a lot of the same reasons, except for the backstory, I do also like this.
Yes.
You'll see my rating is a little lower than Judah's at the end,
Mm-hmm.
but it is good. Like, it is really good. And I want to get into it a little bit more as well. Beyond the setup of issue 1, we don't really see the question posed that much.
Yes.
This is we get some talk about the Court of Owls.
Yes.
And how Batman Bruce does not believe in it, and no one really does. And it's just like a story you tell, like the boogeyman, essentially, to kids to make them, act properly and behave. But there's this mystery brewing in the background of, people are dying, and what's this connection? And I believe it was potentially early in issue 2, where we get Nightwing coming into this as well, and that he has some sort of a connection to the crime scene, which essentially. I love. And potentially it was at the end of issue 1 for the cliffhanger, and then it's resolved in issue 2 at the beginning. But that was really good for setting it up. It doesn't really pose the question, which is why we haven't gotten into it that much. This is, as of right now, a city that he knows. He is very familiar with the landscape. He thinks that he understands what's going on. He thinks that he can apply all his regular methodologies to these, this crime spree that he's seeing around.
Yeah, these killings.
But then as we get into issue 2 a little bit more, that's when it starts to falter a little bit. That's when we see him a little bit more out of his element. Like, he doesn't quite understand where anything's coming from, how things are connecting, why they even would connect. And then again, the Nightwing thing, which gets resolved pretty quickly, but I thought it was an interesting thing to add, where once we get into, okay, let's investigate the Court of Owls a little bit more, right? Yeah. There's a connection to both Bruce's past of his great grandfather was died under somewhat potentially mysterious circumstances.
He died in the sewer, and they just kind of thought that he was crazy and wandered down there, and something got him. But something did get him, but he was not crazy.
Yes. It was, in fact, the Court of Owls.
Yeah, and their Talons, who are, by the way, the designs for the Talons,
they're really good.
Really good. Also fantastic physical villains to represent the kind of grander scale threat to Batman as an idea, right? In regards to the city. I like that.
Yeah. And like owls versus bats and all that is also really, really interesting theme of the whole story. All 11 issues, which I don't know if we've mentioned it's 11 issues. Technically, there's a 12th, like an epilogue, and also the annual.
But
neither of those were
really
putting as this. The
story.
Annual really is only in title part of this. It is not in any actual way, except they have, Night of the Owls, 11:58 p.m. or whatever they have at different, timestamps throughout it, but it's not actually part of this, so we're not going to cover those two.
Yes.
But so there's the connection with Bruce and his grandfather, great grandfather. There's also the connection with Nightwing. Early on we saw the connection of him to one of these crime scenes.
Yes.
And that turned out to be nothing. Mm-hmm. But what's a little bit more important to the story going forward is his connection to, as Batman's starting to figure out a little bit more, training up these Talons and how that kind of comes about, I think it was also the great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
I think it was the same generation of, what's his name? What's Nightwing's name? I don't know.
Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson. Thank you. His great-great-grandfather. Mm-hmm. And so, first of all, I was really intrigued to be like, oh, wait, this isn't just like a Batman thing. Like, Batman has some sort of connection through his roots to the Court of Owls. It's like the people around him, too. Some of the people that kind of just so happen to be the
Bat family.
Bat family, yeah. And then there's further, it's a little bit more down the line, I think, but I'll talk about it here. Mm-hmm. It's even revealed that he was going to be trained up to be a Talon.
Yeah.
Like, he was one of the marks, essentially, to be captured and brought into...
When Batman knocks the tooth out, and he's like, look at this, they marked you.
That's, like, literally issue 8, issue 9, something like that. Yeah. It's a lot farther in, but that was also a great thing. I did really enjoy that. But here we see more of the question we've posed coming in, where, okay, what's going on here? Bruce Batman does not understand how these things are connecting. Mm-hmm. He's still very adamant about Court of Owls doesn't exist. He's investigating it because he's a good detective and he will investigate all leads.
Okay, somebody's taking this on as a theme because he's seen so many themed villains at this point. Like, that's kind of what the first part in Arkham's Bat. It's like, look at all these, like, we have Two-Face and Scarecrow and all these themed villains. So, like, when you get there and you see the killing, you're like, okay, this is a children's story. This is a rhyme.
Which is why he still thinks that he's within his element here. Is because he's like, you can look at this and it can fall into every other villain he's ever encountered in the past.
Yes.
Like, it does seem part of this formula. But where the real crux, at least in my viewing of the story, where it changes to put him out of his element, is he gets some lead. I don't exactly remember, but somebody mentioned something about them, or I think he might have remembered somebody saying something about where the rhyme was talking about them hiding in the walls.
Yeah,
and he knew that somehow there was one in this tower when he was attacked in the first place.
So he as Bruce Wayne, he gets attacked by a Talon, which is very interesting because Bruce Wayne has not been doing anything.
Yeah,
that would
he
make
had the
him
project that he was going to build more
Owls.
towers, essentially. But
but
beyond
he wasn't doing anything against the Court of Owls. In his meeting before he gets attacked, he meets a guy named Lincoln March. Will come very important by the end of this narrative.
Yes,
he gets attacked as Bruce Wayne, and the Talon doesn't say anything, but you get the impression that the Talon knows he's Batman. And Batman is on the scent of the Court of Owls, and they've been taking out people who are trying to spread the word about them, which is the first body we see, which is really excellently rendered and is brutally picked apart by a Talon. Batman is like, they're hiding in the walls. Where could... Oh...
The 13th floor.
There's a 13th floor. It's a false floor. This is a real thing in architecture, and I love that they took this from like real architecture. Real old school architecture. There are in between false floors. They exist. You could technically like probably renovate them now, but they existed to have more distance for the elevators and stairs and stuff to be built as support structures for those, right? Like that's what they're built for. They're not built for like service and use. So
and there was a thing about the superstitions as well.
Yeah.
In most, I would assume most skyscrapers around at least the Western world today, if they're tall enough to have a 13th floor, they don't. You see 12 and then you see 14, right?
Yes.
And so it's pulling from that as well of, this mysterious 13th floor that doesn't exist because there's a superstition around the 13th number. And that's pulled in and he's like, great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpappy Wayne was a superstitious type and all of that. And then I think most of the time, not with, you're talking about older architecture where there is actually a gap space.
Yeah.
I think nowadays, if you're going to not have the 13th floor, it's literally just a numbering thing. Like they don't put space in between.
There's not an actual secret floor where the Court of Owls is and your skyscraper.
Right. But the older towers where people were more suspicious, that's quite potentially the case. Yeah. But it's actually specifically mentioned in the story that even going forward, it was essentially built in that he was so superstitious about this 13th floor thing that he would still put the gap space to contain all the I don't know, negative energies or whatever it would be, and that there's this foundation, this fund that's set up to fund projects around the city, that it's essentially a stipulation that there does actually have to be this gap space, which is how the Court of Owls has their even up to the newer projects in Gotham still has these gap spaces
where they can operate in there. They can monitor all the people inside the building and outside of the building, and they can have beautiful family portraits of their members and their Talons, which is what I love when he's going through it and he starts seeing the dates and he's like, oh no, like you can see it in his monologue. He's realizing, wait a second, I thought that this is not what I thought it was. Yeah. Like there's something bigger here. Like you can see, it's visually depicted and it's depicted as monologue, but you can see him realizing, I'm out of my element. I don't know about
And there's
this.
entire swaths of the city, essentially, that he thought that he knew everything there is to know about the city, but there are entire swaths of the city that he doesn't know anything about. There are places in the city that are right in front of him that he never saw, that he never even thought to look for. And that is putting him completely out of his element here, completely out of his depth. And I do mean that because he does take quite a few beatings through this.
He really does.
Whole thing.
One of my favorite things about this, Batman getting his ass kicked.
it's not like in most stories where he gets a beating and then he has time and he recovers and then he goes into the next thing where maybe he gets a beating again. But it's not like it's accumulating through all 11 issues of this. Potentially, if you want to include 12, potentially if you want to include 13 as well. That number again. But if you want to include all of those, it's been like 13 issues of just he takes a beating and he doesn't get a rest to like literally heal from the previous one before he gets another beating. Yes. And it does culminate in the end where there's essentially nothing he can do and he gets out his Hulkbuster armor, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I love that accumulation that's happening in this, because that's
really great.
That puts him again of our question. That's him way out of his element. Usually he goes into a new fight refreshed. Not this time. Yeah,
it's like he does his investigation initially. He gets attacked as Bruce Wayne. He does the second thing where he goes to the 13th floor. He gets beaten up by some Talons, and he barely kind of gets out and beats them. And then he goes and he's like, oh, I'm putting all this stuff together. And then he's kind of kidnapped and put inside of probably one of the most iconic and coolest elements of this book, which is the Labyrinth, which is the absolute pinnacle of probably the horror in this story, as well as the mental, like the book messing with your mind, because it literally has you have to rotate the pages to start understanding what's going on in the narrative, which I found so fun and I really love. So, do you have any thoughts on the Labyrinth?
It's really cool. First of all, the artwork, I believe Judah wants me to throw that up there, of just looking at the Labyrinth. Yes. Hopefully that's been up for this bit of this little clip here. Yes. But look at that. That is really cool. Just the idea of it, like, again, another entire swath of the city that he doesn't know about. The city that he thinks he knows everything there is to know. But there's an entire like Court of Owls labyrinth just underground. Like, he has a Batcave. He should know the underground of this city, but he doesn't. And I really like the sequence of, I think it all took place within one issue, right?
It takes place in the main bulk of it takes place in one issue. He gets captured, and then it's like an issue of him.
Just the whole issue of that was really intriguing, of like him going through this maze, and he keeps coming back to this photo room, and he sees some people in the photo room as well. He finds a graveyard, essentially. He finds a water fountain. And that comes up later. He actually uses that as Mr. Detective over here. He's like, oh, the way the water tastes, it's got this certain mineral in it. It must be from this area, so I kind of know where I am, all of that. Classic Batman. But just going through this maze, and he slowly degenerates, and then you really get these close-ups of him on these pictures, and it looks like he's rotting at a certain point.
Which is really excellently rendered by Greg Capullo. Yeah. Like, props to him. His art is immaculate in this narrative. It's great.
But yeah, this entire section is really, really good. Anything else you wanted to mention in it, especially as concerns our question?
The part where he's kind of freaking out, and then he starts turning into an owl, kind of being a very visual representation of him, like, losing the facade he had of, like, Batman. I know this. I know what's going on. I'm, like, the general Batman aesthetic. And instead, he's being morphed into something where he recognizes that he is not the top dog. He is not the pinnacle. The Court of Owls is the pinnacle. And, like, he doesn't understand everything.
He is not, in fact, the top of the food chain.
Yes. Which... great. Very excellent way to render that. We can throw that up on screen. I'll find what page that is and tell Kirk. But I want to note that. So
so he is, at this point, he's completely beaten after multiple beatings that he did not really have much time to recover from.
Yes. From
this point on, everything literally takes place within one night.
Yes.
Before, everything was maybe within a day, like a 1 day night cycle. I think when he, as Bruce, is first attacked by a Talon is the day before all of this happens. So still not very much time to heal, especially from the damage that he took. Yes. But then from here on out, everything takes place in one night. He's bruised and beaten, physically and mentally at this point through the entire night. It's just one thing after another for him. And it isn't until really close to the end that he starts to figure things out, and that he kind of gets back to being the Batman that knows everything that's going on in Gotham.
Yeah.
But really the turning point was, okay, let's find those 13 floors, right? He's in one, it's a trap, it blows up, and he's taken to this maze, right? From here on out, it's just, he's out of his depth. He does not know what's going on. And especially, I don't know exactly which issue number it was, but especially as he's going through this maze, like,
I think it's issue 5 or 6.
Yeah, like he is just lost, which is a maze. Makes sense.
That makes sense.
But then at a certain point he escapes. I think it was again the fountain thing with
he figures out the fountain thing, and then he lures a guy in there to beat him up. He beats the crap out of the guy, and then he starts putting together that each of the places he's been is a puzzle, and like the entire thing is kind of, it is designed to be escapable. It is designed to get out. You just have to not lose your sanity. Like it's a thing that's designed to make you insane.
Yeah. And he uses the camera where he's been getting his ever deteriorating photos taken.
Yes.
He figures that, it's a really old camera. It has this certain substance in it that I can use to just like blow up or something like that. And so he uses that again, Batman.
Yeah.
And he's able to escape from this maze. And he goes back, I think immediately he goes back to the Batcave, Wayne Manor.
And that's where we get kind of the confrontation with Nightwing that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, they're about to start coming. They know that if I live, I will get this out there. And that's when we get the Court of Owls. They let a few people out.
Yeah.
There's a handful.
We learned that the graveyard was actually a graveyard of the owls.
Yes.
Not of the owls, of the Talons.
Yes.
Throughout the ages that have not died but been like really, really damaged, and so they were just like, I guess it's easier to move on to another one. That's what I figured from the whole sequence, but they had a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And there are in fact a bunch of them. They are able to revive them, and I would be really what I was kind of hoping from this story is that we would go a little bit more into who all of the Talons were, and like how they're all like connected to various figures that we know from Batman comics.
There's a chart.
I would be really interested to see that. We'll have to look at that after this.
I'll pull the chart up after.
But like even just within this story, like I would have liked to see Batman and maybe Nightwing as well, figuring out like, oh wait, this person is connected with this, and like. Oh, you're actually fighting your great-great-grandfather right now who's coming to kill some random guy on a list. Sure.
All of the Bat titles at this time had tie-ins to Night of Owls. So starting from issue 7 on, Nightwing, Batgirl, there's a Robin series, I believe, and Detective Comics. They're not essential reading at all. They are all definitely not essential reading. So you have the full narrative and scope of Snyder's vision. But they do, I think especially the Nightwing one goes more into depth with kind of like the legacy, what is the legacy of the families of the Talons, and how they're kind of connected to not just prominent Gotham figures, but some people you would know throughout the DC universe, which is really interesting. So there is that.
Okay, yeah, that's something that I was really kind of hoping for within the main story of this comic run, but I'll look at that later, and I'm sure it will be really interesting.
Yeah.
But essentially now we're at the point where they've let loose all the Talons, and they're just going after all of the possible enemies of the Court of Owls.
Yeah.
And that includes Batman and Bruce Wayne. That includes some members of the city council. That includes just a bunch of people, and many of them do not make it through the night.
They don't.
But Batman does call in the Bat family to try to deal with the threat, while he deals with an absolute horde of them just coming for him,
which is so awesome that he fights them in a bathrobe. That's pretty based.
Yes.
And Alfred is a goat clutch.
Yeah.
Legendary house invasion stopping moments from Alfred.
And this is when we're getting a little bit more of Batman is figuring things out. He understands what he's up against, and he is not necessarily as out of his element because he starts to figure out weaknesses. And one of them was the cold. like
Yes.
this kind of serum thing or whatever it is that they put in the Talons to, make them effectively immortal, is weakness to cold. And I think that's where the annual came in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because what's his name, Mr. Freeze?
It's Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what the tie into that was, but somehow it relates, and okay, it's the cold.
Yeah.
So
it's not that deep, guys.
So
they freeze. Like
put
most
it
zombies.
as Sub-Zero as they're possibly able to do. He comes out with his Hulkbuster bat armor thing.
I think is that the Hellbat, or that might be the Hellbat.
I wouldn't know. But he's
very cool.
Doing well for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely good for his stamina in terms of like just the little bit of few extra minutes of recovery time for him from the maze that was going on just 5 seconds before this.
Yeah.
And that doesn't last for very long though. They literally just start tearing it off of him,
which is
then
great.
He gets exposed to the cold. Though he is a little bit more immune to the cold than they are.
Yeah,
First of all, because he doesn't have the serum in him, but second of all, because
fought Mr. Freeze several times and had to deal with so much hypothermia in his time.
He's getting used to it. But this is again, as I was mentioning earlier, this is when he, with respect to our question, he's figuring it out a little bit more. Okay, now he's understood their weakness. He's capitalizing on their weakness. He is, I'm sure here in the background, he's thinking about, okay, where am I going to go to find the Court of Owls in the future? Because right after this, he's like, I'm immediately going to go out with all of my injuries and I'm going to go fight the Court of Owls now.
Well, he goes and is it him that checks on Lincoln March?
Yeah, he does that really briefly. And he's like, oh, they were coming for me. And then he goes to find the court.
Yeah, and which is funny because they definitely didn't come for Lincoln March, which makes sense for later. But yeah, he goes, finds the court. Our boy Lincoln, fun fact, not a great guy. Also might be Bruce Wayne's secret brother.
Yeah. I mean, they drew him to look exactly like him. Spitting image.
That's
when I first saw him, I was like, which one's Bruce?
Which one? Yeah, exactly.
I had to figure out from context. So,
but
of course they can draw however they want, so that doesn't necessarily mean that they are actually related.
In some books, Batman and Superman look exactly the same, especially when Bruce Wayne is drawn out of costume.
Yeah, I was reading the Flash, current run of the Flash, issue number 5 from yesterday. The one that I have like 28 through 32. Yeah. So it's the current ongoing one as of 2026. And Barry looks exactly like Chris Evans. Exactly. Spitting image. Barry, like actually Barry? Like Barry Allen.
I haven't read that, so I'm
Barry Allen. There was one specific frame that I'm thinking of, and he looks exactly
the same. Throw it up on the screen, Kirk.
Yeah, sure. They can make anybody look however they want through this.
Yes.
So it's definitely a question by the end of this. I think the Alfred kind of storyline that was going on at the end of some of these issues answers the question more in the not related side, but I want to go personally with they actually are.
Oh, we got to read Batman Eternal, dude. That's probably my favorite Batman story of all time. So,
and that's another thing where this is a Batman out of his depth thing. This is a Batman not knowing the city because he theoretically had a brother this whole time,
and he didn't know about it, which is crazy.
Yeah, and it's also a question of not only does he not know the city, if that's the case, he doesn't know his parents, if that's the case,
and he doesn't know his family,
and that's kind of a bigger blow, honestly.
And yeah, with the Nightwing connections, like I don't know my son. Like my son is like a sleeper agent for the bad guys.
Yeah,
for
the bad guys that I didn't even know existed
that run the city that I'm protecting. Like there's so many. This is an onion. There are so many layers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. Lincoln March, bad guy. Does he kill all of the Court of Owls? Is that what happens? Or
he kills not all. Court of Owls is actually international,
which is great. I love that.
So
do they have ties to Athena? Can we have Wonder Woman take on the Court of Owls at some point? Because I feel like that would be cool.
Can we have everyone?
Can we have Superman take on the Court of Owls? Even can we get super powered Talons, please? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It'd be so cool.
It would be.
Because it is kind of set up like that could have been the case.
Yes.
Now this is, 10 years ago?
15 years ago?
Yeah, so probably not.
Yeah.
I guess anybody could pick it up.
We could bring him back.
But
We could
like it's a
revive
big
the
enough
Corps.
organization that they could have been in hiding the whole time and then just come back now. Like,
yeah.
But no, this was just kind of like the Gotham branch essentially, and not even all of them. He's able to like gather them all for a
Lovely meal.
yeah, lovely,
Very
lovely meal in which
Also,
he kills
like
them all.
old granny in the wheelchair. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember.
One of the members is an old lady in a wheelchair. That haunted my dreams as a child. She's horrifying. Like, she's just... the way Capullo,
I bet you loved the Punisher special.
She's not
As horrifying.
as scary.
Not like an owl mask on and...
Yeah, I feel like that more has to do with... Like, if I
Yeah.
can see your face, you're not that scary to me.
True.
Unless your face is really jacked up. In which
For
case,
a kid, the masks are quite horrifying. So.
yes, which is great. Anyway, he annihilates what parts of the Court of Owls are in Gotham City.
Yeah.
And then he gets his super suit, like freaking Frozone. And him and Batman have fun flying around the city. More accurately,
While he tries to explain some of the lore that is debatable as to whether or not it is lore of their potential relationship.
Is it lore? This is funny. This is not spoiling anything, but this is not really answered ever. And we sink in.
I'm kind of okay with that.
I'm okay with that, but like at a certain point, it feels like
I don't think every question needs to be answered.
This is true. I agree with you. At the same time, the number of times Lincoln March has shown up, like if it was just this story,
Yeah, I guess
and
if
we
they
left it
do
at
keep
that,
bringing
you
him
know
back.
what I mean?
Even if, I feel like it's fine if they do this and then they bring him back a couple of times, but then they do leave it be.
Yeah, but it's like if he's not related to them in the end, if they ever answer it, it's like, well, then what was he doing the entire time? Like his whole meaning and.
But I feel like it'd be a little bit unsatisfying if then they told us, oh, but they are related. So I think the best thing to do is just
leave it blank.
Leave it. Like don't stop bringing this guy back. Just leave it. It's an unanswered question.
Well, and we're not going to tease you with it anymore. He does play a role in some other really good stories later where they don't answer the question, which is also pretty great in those. But yeah, no. Anyway, he hurls Batman around. Batman is getting his ass handed to him, which is great. We love when that happens. We really do. Like, that's my most enjoyable part of Batman. Anyway, Batman, get this, guys. Batman wins.
Shocker.
How does Batman win? Batman takes Lincoln down because Lincoln took the Court of Owls down. And if you think about it, Lincoln is pretty damn effective in stopping criminal organizations in Gotham. Batman is probably not as effective, but he did take Lincoln down. So there's that. Though he does escape mysteriously into the night.
Yes.
Don't we all?
Never to be seen again. Not.
Except for he will be seen again. And Bruce kind of reflects on what all has just happened. And when he reflects that he doesn't really know the city that he thought he knew. He doesn't, like, so many things are kind of brought into question for him. And those questions are posed here. And the rest of Snyder and Capullo's time on Batman, which we'll be definitely covering, doesn't really answer them, but just poses more of them. Like, that's what I like about their run, which we'll dig into more. But specifically, it starts here, is the, like, okay, what is Batman? Like, what is this? What is Batman without knowing Gotham? What is Batman without this, that, and the other, right? So, what is Batman without knowing Gotham? Like, what is it? Like, he's supposed to know the city like the back of his hand. This is the place he's trained to protect. This is his home. He should know all the back streets, the shortcuts, everything.
Every level of every building.
Every level of every building.
What's underneath the city.
Yeah. Like, he at this point, Batman has been doing it for, like, 6 years or something, I think is what they say in the beginning, which is interesting that he's had, like, 4 Robins in 6 years, but...
He's burning through them.
He really is. And that means, like, Jason Todd wasn't dead for that long, which I'm okay with, I guess. But it still is like, oh, he should know. Like, he's been doing this for a while, like, long enough that he should know, but he doesn't. And I like that. I think that's a good thing. I think the answer to the question, what happens, is that Bruce begins to question every part of his life. And a good narrative gives your main character something to question.
Something to wrestle with.
Something to wrestle with. And I love him wrestling with that in this book. What's your thoughts? What's your process on that?
again, overall, I thought the story was really good. I did really think that it was a good portrayal of what our question is. And just, yes, by the end of it, he has more things to investigate, essentially. Like, more he needs to make better sure that he does actually understand the city as much as he wants and needs to understand the city. But he also comes out on top. And so, despite the fact that he's out of his element the whole time, he can also fall back on the fact that even when he's out of his element, he can handle the situation. Even when he doesn't have all the information, he's able to find all the information. He's, first and foremost, Batman's a detective, right? The name of DC is Detective Comics. So it's kind of a big deal, big part of his story. And so he does actually have that to rely on for any future situations where he may not have all of the answers to all of the questions in Gotham City. But at the same time, he's recognizing a bit of a weakness in that, he's brushed off some things that maybe should have warranted more investigation, especially as it relates to his parents. Because, again, at the beginning of this, he explained how he thought that his parents could have been killed by the Court of Owls. And so when he was a kid, he investigated it. But he closed the book on it too quickly when he didn't have the skills necessary to actually investigate it. Which it's really interesting. Actually, the place that we're shown that he investigates as a kid is actually where the Court of Owls all meet.
Which is really
at the
funny.
end and are killed by
Lincoln March.
Yes. So that's actually really interesting. Potentially, I was wondering throughout all of this whether or not the Court of Owls actually was responsible for his parents' death. It was not answered. I think it was answered. If it was answered, it was more in the not the cause of their death direction. I think it's actually that they were.
Okay. Okay.
Getting derailed from what my little monologue here was. So I'll get back to it.
Please do.
Essentially, he recognizes some of his weaknesses. I think potentially, I mean, I don't know where this goes, but I think it would be good if this went in a direction of, does he need to know absolutely every single detail in a totally autistic manner about his city?
Yes.
Like, yeah, he needs to know, he needs to have a very, very strong, solid working knowledge, but it doesn't need to be universal and absolute. And I feel like that should be where this headed.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know everything, but I know that even if something comes up that I don't know everything about, I can handle that situation.
Yeah.
I can rely on my detective skills. I can rely on, just being Batman for this city and figuring out the situation one way or another, and just being kind of content with the fact, honestly, because it can be very self-destructive.
Yeah.
To just like, okay, I need to know everything there is to know. I'm going to focus way too much on just knowing everything, and you can, first of all, you can miss the forest for the trees, but you can also just be self-destructive in, like, if you go too far in your investigations of the matter. Though, again, what I was talking about with dismissing things a little too quickly, that is just an actual lesson that he can learn to be better in the future. Of like, okay, well, just because I dismissed it before doesn't mean that it just can't possibly be the case going forward. Yeah. So
it's great. All right, ratings. I want you to go first, so I can take your rating apart.
As far as an overall rating, the averages do not work out like this from individual issues. Yeah. But my overall rating for the story is 4.5 stars.
So 9.
Individual issues, 9 out of 10 star numbers.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 numbers.
Yeah. For individual issues wise, I have 1 through 6 as 4 stars. I have 7 and 8, 4.5, and then 9 through 11 as 4 stars. Mm-hmm. Again, math does not math there to be 4.5 total.
Yeah, that's true.
I think a number of those that are 4 stars are like 4.25, which would be an 8.5 out of 10, something like that. You know, it's a little harder with the rating systems. Like, I'm going into League and I, have to go by half stars. Yeah. But I thought that this was like really good. Like, this is a great story, spectacular.
Yeah.
potentially not quite in the 5 stars territory.
That's really interesting.
But like this does feel definitive Batman for me.
It is definitive Batman. So here's the thing. Overall, I think the rating points out to all of the issues as about 4.65 of my ratings of each issue on Comic Geek. I'd round that up to 4.75, right? This is downright definitive. I think this is top 3 Batman stories of all time. And you can come at me, all you 80s stans and 90s stans. And
look, this is going to make me read the rest of New 52 Batman at least, and potentially a lot of other New 52 stuff as well, because it was that good.
The Batman stuff was pretty good.
Yeah.
Everything else
but I want to... I'm a bit of a completionist, so...
Just slightly.
But it was so good that I feel like it's warranted to explore a lot more of the New 52 universe.
Yes. So I feel like this is a 9.75 out of 10. This is 4.5 stars from me as well. Our star ratings will relate, which is very interesting. Our point averages are a slight 0.75 difference. I think if nothing in this series appears as 5 stars to you, you might not be a Batman person. Like that's kind of my takeaway from this and that's okay. Like
I don't give away. I'm very stingy with my 5 stars. Really,
I'm aware.
Like I give it to a couple of Star Trek things and absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah, well, you've given one to an issue of DCKO. You gave it to the
issue 5, probably.
Yeah, you gave it to the last issue.
Yeah,
which is fair because it's like a ridiculously good book.
Right, but I give them out very rarely. So if I'm giving something a 4.5, that's almost the best I'm ever gonna do.
Yeah,
like it really takes something out of this world for me personally to get higher than that. So you know,
it's interesting.
Just because it's 4.5 for me doesn't mean it's not.
It's not. It doesn't mean
I thought of it very differently than
you.
You. Like I'm kind of on the same page with you on this.
Yes, I think I do think there just needs to be credit where credit is due. Capullo's art, we've had at this point. Hopefully, we'll have thrown a bunch of his pages on the screen, which will be lovely for you to enjoy. And go actually read this work. Read it digitally on DC Universe Infinite, or go pick up the Compact Comics Court of Owl Saga. It contains all 11 of these issues. Actually, I think it contains 13. I think it contains the annual and the epilogue as well. It does. Go pick that up and read it. It's a heavy recommend from both of us. This is probably the best Batman starting point if you want to start in modern comics.
There's actually, you have to get 2 volumes. You can get 1 through 7 as Batman Volume 1. And
those are trades, but the compact comic collects all 13.
The compact.
Yeah, pull up the compact.
I don't think I can see it in here for some reason.
Interesting. I'm pretty sure it collects...
Oh, wait, maybe I can.
The annual and... Or just the 11. I could be wrong.
See, 1 through...
It's just the 1 through 11?
11.
Okay, still all of the major narrative points.
And also... For some reason, Batman 11 is listed twice in here, but okay.
Yeah. Interesting. But
so you really don't need to have read the annual, then.
Yeah, you go buy that $10 comic from your local comic shop. Support your local comic shop. Read Batman. Read Superman. If you have read those characters, leave us recommendations down in the comments below. I heavily recommend this book. Kirk enjoyed this book and recommends this book. Mm-hmm. That's a fair thing to say for you.
I very much recommend this book.
Beverage shout out.
You got it this time. I
have got it this time. That's crazy. I feel like if you're drinking Mexican Coca-Cola, then...
I'm jealous.
Then if you're watching this video, reading a Batman comic, and drinking a Mexican Coke...
And you got this far in.
You got this far into the video. You are a legend, and go drop your full legal name and social security number in the comments down below. I
feel like it's a statistical impossibility that all 3 of those things are the case, mostly because almost nobody actually watches to the end of our videos.
Yeah, they watch like 45 minutes into an hour-long video and then stop, which really bothers me.
At maximum.
I'm sorry, guys. Like, I don't know where we fall off. Maybe you just don't like our ratings.
Probably about the 45-minute mark.
Probably.
If that's where we fall off, then...
Yeah. Whoops. With that being said, good morning.
Good evening.
And good night.
God bless.
Ooh, beware the court of owls that watches all the time, ruling Gotham from a shadowed perch behind granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth, they watch you in your bed. Speak not a whispered word of them, or they'll send a Talon for your head.
That was kind of gay. I'm leaving that in. He fell out of his chair.